In this video, we will be discussing the NSArray class. NSArray is the Objective-C class for managing collections of objects. If you are unfamiliar with the term array, then think of an array as simply a container that holds items. There are many ways to create an NSArray. We are going to cover a few of them here and focus on the class methods. If you look in the documentation for NSArray, you will find that these have corresponding instance methods as well. Here are the class methods that we're going to go over. The first one we can just use NSArray array, and that will create a new empty array for us and put it in the variable A1. The second way here is to create an NSArray and send it the message array with object. So this will create an array with one object in it. This particular object happens to be an NSString, but you could use any object. You can put an NSDate, an NSDictionary, another NSArray, so any object you can put inside of an array. The next method is to create an array using array with array. So here we would create an NSArray, put it in the variable A2, and we would be adding the empty array A1 to this array. Now that wouldn't make sense in real life, but it's just an example for here. In this example, we'll be creating an array with multiple objects using the array with objects method. Now arrays accept objects, not primitives. So I'll show you that in just a second. First off, we're going to create a few objects. The first one is an NSDate. We'll set the variable a date to the current date, and we do that by calling NSDate class, and we send it the message date, and that will perform the method date on the class NSDate. That'll return us a full date object. Next, we'll create an NSNumber, and we're going to use NSNumber, number with int, and give it the number 32. So this is where we couldn't just stick an integer into the NSArray. We have to use an NSNumber, which is an object. Basically, NSNumber is an Objective-C wrapper around int. Okay, our next item that we're going to create is an NSString. We'll just set it to a constant string bill. And then down here, we'll create the array. We'll call it an array. We're going to call the class NSArray. We're going to send it the message array with objects. And we're going to feed it a date, a value, a string, those objects. And then the last item in the list is nil. The reason why we have to use nil at the end is array with objects accepts a variable number of arguments. So it doesn't know when you're going to stop. Nil informs the method that we are no longer adding objects to this array. And finally, we're going to print it out to the log. We'll use our %@ symbol, and then we'll use the NArray to substitute for that. Let's go ahead and run it with Command R. We can see in our console that we have a full date object here. It gives us the year, the time, and our time zone. It gives us 32, and then bill. And now you've just seen how to add multiple objects to an array using array with objects. In this example, we're going to cover querying and finding items in an array. So at the top, we're just going to create an array called students. We're going to use the array with objects method. We're going to give it Tom, Bill, and Joe. And then we're going to terminate it with nil. Our first query method is going to return a Boolean value, and we're going to send the students array the message contains object. And we're going to pass in Bill, and this will query the array to see if Bill is contained inside our students array. Our next query method is going to be the count method. So we send students the count message. It's going to return an NS unsigned integer. We'll put that in the count variable, and that will just count up all the items in the array and let us know how many we have in that array. Then we're going to get the last object in the array, and if you look here, I've used the ID type as the object variable. The reason we do this is NSArray can hold many different object types. Since we don't know which type it's going to come back as, we use ID, which is a generic object type. So no matter what it is, it'll just put it into the object variable. We're going to do the same thing with object 1, and we're going to grab a specific object. We're going to use the object at index, and we'll grab the object at index 1. Remember, NSArrays have a 0-based index. So if we look up here, Tom would be 0, Bill would be 1, and Joe would be 2. In the index. Now since there's a lot of information to print out here in our console, we're going to use the string with format method, and we're doing this to demonstrate a nice way to lay out a formatted string. On our first line here, we're using the \n character, and that's a new line return. This will put 2 new lines and then print the equals. After that, it'll create another new line, put students contain, Bill with a question mark, and then the %d. So this is going to be our integer value. What's interesting to note here is even though we've put these all on separate lines and we don't use commas, Objective-C will squish them all together and then format it correctly for us. At the end of our string, we put a comma, and then we're going to put all the replacement objects that will replace our placeholders in our formatted string. Now at the bottom, we do the same thing with NSlog. We use the %@ symbol, and then we use results. So the results is our formatted string right here. So let's go ahead and print this out to the console using Command R and see what we get. And there we go, a nicely formatted log statement. Our first one, students contain Bill, returns 1, that's true. The number of students is 3. Our last object is Joe, and object at index 1 is Bill.